Attention, your paradigm is about to shift at the intersection of fact and reason. You're entering Kingston Country.
I'm Dan Kingston, and you're listening to the Dan Kingston Podcast. Crazy news day today, isn't it? If you woke up, you saw some of the testimony from the Director of National Intelligence, Joseph McGuire, being grilled by Congress. Why didn't you release the whistleblower complaint earlier? Well, now we have it. We have the whistleblower complaint. We have the transcript, although it's not the official transcript. They say it's not verbatim, but it is a transcript. It's recorded somewhere. The NSA has it on file. And one of the big questions is, why did Trump come forward? Because he was the one that released this information himself. The White House released it, kind of bypassing executive privilege. Some people are wondering, why did he do it? Because let's face it, there's some damning information in the whistleblower complaint. It doesn't make Trump look great. Now, it could make the Biden look worse, and it could end up looking like a wash, kind of a political wash kind of thing. But it does play into the narrative that Trump is corrupt and taking advantage of his office, like they're alleging this in the Russia. In our republic, the power is in the hands of the people to vote and to elect a president. And the people have it in their power to get it wrong or to get it right or to have a shade of gray. Of course, there's always half the country that's going to say you got it wrong. The other half is going to say you got it right. Now, you could say the impeachment's been set up for such cases where it's just such an egregious situation. They needed to have some kind of escape route. So they wrote in the impeachment clause, right, for the executive branch. Now, knowing that he can't be removed, convicted, because the votes aren't there unless something gets really crazy, why then didn't he just, drag this all out? As I would argue, I don't think anybody's said this. He wanted to get ahead of the story because the deep state, let's face it, the NSA, they have the recordings. And they're upset. They're upset over Bolton being fired. They're upset over their endless wars. The deep state's upset because Trump doesn't take orders from them. And as a civilian employee of the government, you have to take orders from the deep state. What do you think about this? Is this a conspiracy theory, or is this straight on what's happening, the casting the shadows that we're all looking at? And I'm saying this is the flames. Because, you got to keep your eye on the shadows. I understand. That's your livelihood. That's how you make sense of the world. That's how you understand not to walk yourself off a cliff, go down the wrong path. The shadows help guide us. But we do have to understand they are shadows. There is a flame casting the shadows. While we cannot see the flame, we know it's there. There's those of you might be saying, it doesn't matter. Don't look at the flame. Just stay focused on the shadows. That's all that matters. But there's those of you that are a little bit wiser, and at this point, you do realize you don't see it. You don't see what's really happening. You see a reflection. You see the shadows. And for those of you, you're in the right place because you're in Kingston Country.
This is Kingston Country.
Now, what are those flames? They're simply the deep state with leverage on the President of the United States. It's simply unacceptable to me, and I hope it is to you, to have a check and balance that consists of a secret spy agency, the NSA. If, in fact, Trump leaked this himself, or in fact released it to get ahead of the story so that it wouldn't be leaked from the NSA or another deep state department or official, well, that says something very troubling about the state of our republic. Now, the executive branch, I think, if you're looking at everything that's been happening, especially beginning with 9/11, culminating in the Obama presidency, and being fully taken advantage of under Trump, is this executive power just through the roof that nobody is able to control. For whatever reason, you could make the argument. I was talking to my dad. He's mentioning how FDR was really the president to expand the executive branch to almost a dictator-like kind of capacity. He had to do that to wage war, a world war. That, though, caused irreparable harm to the republic. Many years, the presidents, they respected the precedent of their office until 9/11 and Bush realizes, whoa, we do have a lot of power, thanks FDR. And his attorneys were saying, Mr. President, you can pretty much do whatever the hell you want. Well, Bush, maybe he got intimidated by that, but Cheney wasn't. Cheney said, sir, this is our opportunity to redo the world in our neopolitical neocon image. Of course, you know what happened next. Now, under Obama, he ran on ending these wars. Oh, the deep state, they loved that. Oh, that was his candidate, right? For wherever you think about Obama, and I'm sure you might hate him. Maybe you like him. I don't know. But he was no fan of the deep state, and he was no deep state golden boy. I'll tell you that. That's an obvious one. He was Snowden. Under Obama's presidency, all that got released. We know what's going on. The president's being listened to by the NSA. And the far left was screaming about it when Obama was being listened to. But now Trump's being listened to and being pressured. And now it just goes out the window. Now it's a necessary check and balance. Yeah. Oh, yeah, we need it. We need our president to be listened to. Always, because they could be up to no good. It's also good to have all the Congress listened to by the NSA, by a group no one's elected, no oversight. There is zero transparency. Now, call me a kook, but this is connected to the UFO stuff. The UFO phenomenon is connected to the deep state. The UFO phenomenon's real. And at this point, maybe I lost you. You're like, okay, I've checked out. So what's in the whistleblower complaint anyway? The whistleblower writes in the complaint the White House officials intervened to lock down all records of the phone call between President Trump and Ukraine's president. And to me, that's the most damning part, because it shows they were embarrassed by something, or they felt like maybe they had done something wrong. They always say it's the cover-up. Now, are they hiding it into a special classified top secret server to keep it out of the NSA's hands? Makes no sense, because the NSA already has it. So they're hiding it from somebody, presumably from some kind of whistleblower. So look, this information doesn't make the president look good. At the same time, the Biden scandal is going to come front and center out of this. And even if that's only half of what this Ukraine-Trump scandal is, the American people see it as a wash, don't they? They're going to look at it as political. I mean, what do you think? Tanya from Washington, D.C., what do you make of the whistleblower complaint?
It's really interesting what's happening here, because I feel like there's a lot of layers to this situation and these endless investigations. On one hand, I think the Democrats are trying to stall as much as possible and save their own necks, and hopefully stall all the way to the election, and some hopes they might be able to rig the election and somehow keep things going in their favor. But then at the same time, there seems to be, it's eerie how much the scenario that they've set up for Trump echoes what Joe Biden actually did. and the fact that the Democrats are sitting there with a straight face and saying, Trump has committed some sort of egregious crime, when Joe Biden is on video, I mean, I'm sure everybody's seen it by now, stating, I told him that I was leaving in 6 hours, and if he didn't call off the investigation into my son and Hillary Clinton, I was going to withhold this $1.5 billion. So, I mean, it's full on exposed for everyone to see, but anyone that's living in this world right now as a conservative is looking at all these hypnotized Democrats, and I mean, they're literally hypnotized, chemically, electronically, emotionally, mentally indoctrinated their entire lives, and they are hypnotized by this dark agenda. And it's like the Democrats could say the most ridiculous thing, and their minions would just eat it up. It's spooky.
Now,
and so,
of course, they would say the same thing about your side. Of course, that's, both sides go at it like that. But do you think it's going to be a wash in that sense? That at the end of the day, it just the moderate, independent American will say, "Oh, it's politics. It's just the normal, everyday politics."
Well, it's really interesting because I've talked to a lot of people, a lot of woke, red-pilled patriot Americans who have said, I used to never pay attention to politics. And since Trump came into office, and they've been watching what's been happening to him, and they've been waiting for Hillary to see some sort of justice, and Obama and Biden, as they watch all these endless crimes being played out, and all this pay for play, and all these public servants who should, be living modestly on $175,000, and they're multimillionaires with tons of mansions and so much money in their hands and all these crooked pots. And so, they keep saying that, this is a play. We're watching a play, and enjoy the show. And it's like there's certain events happening that are trying to jerk awake the sleeping masses. I mean, it's so asinine sometimes, some of the scenarios that we're watching playing out. And the sleeping masses, they're just oblivious. But I think more and more every day seem to be waking up. I hear people talk about it. I haven't witnessed it in any of my own circles, but, it's like that urban legend that there are sleeping Democrats that are coming around. So it's almost like this parody, this crazy, let's see how dramatic and insane we can make it. It's almost vaudevillian, and it's being played out in front of us. And we're sitting here from our enlightened perspective, having watched this unfold since 2016, and we're, laughing at how silly and crazy it is. But there are still people that are fully immersed in this narrative. They're holding on to it with everything they have.
Tanya, so, is the deep state and the NSA and the military-industrial complex and all that behind the takedown of Trump from the very beginning, or did that happen somewhere further on down the road?
I believe that there are both, actually kind of three sanctions. There are white hat, black hats, and some gray hats in all areas of government. And I think there have been chess matches all over the place.
But explain the different colored hats.
One letter. The belief that the white hat, or the good side, the patriots, they're the ones that are working for the people, trying to uphold the constitutional republic. And then there's the black hats. They're the service to self. They're the Luciferian, satanic, human traffickers. And that's all we'll say about that. And then there's the gray hats that are just probably trying to stay alive by playing both sides. So, I believe that I don't see any letter agency being straight up black or white, good or evil. I think that there are just constant struggles and tug of wars going on all over the place. In government and all the different agencies. So,
well, one thing I'm thinking is, why did Trump release the transcript and the whistleblower complaint on his own? One idea, I'm thinking, okay, the NSA has all this. They have the recordings, they have the transcripts, and was this going to be leaked anyway? Was Trump trying to get ahead of the story here?
Well, again, if you look at the transcript, it basically outlines exactly what Biden did. So I really feel like there may be a certain amount of priming the pump here, pre-paving for Biden. When we think about how unhinged and mentally unstable some of the people we've seen out marching in the streets appear to be, I think that there has been a certain attempt to be delicate with their emotions to make sure that we don't have any major psychotic breaks. And so I think that's a reason for some of these crazy scenarios playing out that we see. I think that
wait. Who might break down?
The Patriots. I think the Patriots. I believe that the liberals and the pussy hat wearers, the ones that are twerking to save the planet. They just shut down D.C. on Monday because they decided that making cars sit and idle in traffic for a couple hours while they twerk in the middle of the intersections and keep people from getting to their jobs is somehow going to save the planet.
I saw that.
It might have been a much better idea to take India's approach where they planted like 222 million trees in one day or something like that. So, these people are not proactive. They're just antagonistic.
Tanya, how do you think this is going to play out in the end?
I believe that justice will prevail, and I believe that justice wheels move very slowly. And I understand that it's incredibly frustrating to feel like this, just snail's pace. But there's a lot happening, and it takes a long time to investigate all of these different events that are occurring. And it all is tied together. I think we're just being given little bits of puzzle one at a time. I feel like I'm living in a spy novel every single day. I look forward to waking up and seeing what's happened the night before.
There's not necessarily one agency that's all bad or all good. And I think that's important because if you're listening and maybe you work for the NSA and your job is to spy on Dan Kingston, because he's been talking tough about the deep state and the military-industrial complex. Well, I want you to know you have a home as well listening to the Dan Kingston podcast. It's not your fault that your bosses have forced you to listen to my podcast. And I'm kind of feel bad, actually, for you because this might not be what your first choice would be to listen to. And so you're even more welcome, I'd say. So any deep state listeners, if you're one of the good guys, good for you. And a serious note, it's true. Tanya makes a good point. I mean, there's good people and there's bad people all over the world in every government agency, everywhere. And it's important to keep that in mind. And also, we live in a spectrum of political beliefs and also time scale in that people change. They change their point of view. They become informed. And that's not a cop-out. You learn from the information you consume. Now, I grew up in Berkeley, California. I grew up as a very far-left person and slowly became, a little bit more moderate and that kind of thing, and figured out what I was shaped most by was 9/11, by the rise, again, the military-industrial complex like nothing had ever happened except after World War II. And, we've been warned throughout history about the rise of the military-industrial complex. And as I learned more about how the deep state takes control, when I learned that the NSA is listening to the conversations of the president and the Congress, when I learned about the corruption that Tanya is talking about, the congressmen are millionaires when they make modest salaries. How are they getting that money? And I learned about the idea that maybe it's good that we're being listened to. That we have to be protected. They have to listen to us for our own protection, and that the NSA, that's okay. We can't be trusted. It moves you to a different point of view, to a different way of thinking, and that's where I am right now. It's not the smartest thing to go on a podcast and just say exactly what you think. They say the quickest way to destroy family and friends, right? You talk politics. And there's people that won't talk to me. What I'm not going to do is change my beliefs because they don't fit within the groupthink. And I hope you wouldn't either. If something is telling you, speak out. Listen to your voice. Trust your voice. You have no choice but to trust your voice. So what was the most damning part of the whistleblower complaint? Will there be more revelations? One thing I think the Democrats need to understand is they do have a little momentum here. These allegations don't make the president look good. Fair-minded individuals are going to be taken aback by some of the things they see. The question is anybody going to look? And the other, factor is, are the Democrats going to punish and be so vindictive about this that they end up turning off the electorate? Will the whistleblower wake the House or be a mouse? We'll have to wait and see. It looks like they are going to testify before Congress, and I think the thing that Democrats need to watch out for is a weak testimony from the whistleblower that could just be a disaster for this whole thing, the same way Mueller was a disaster for the Mueller report. Now, will they investigate this complaint in a smart way, or will they go down the political rabbit trap? Their base is already motivated, and the Democrats don't need to do anything to motivate their base. The question is the Trump base motivated? And I believe they will be by this as well. So the real question then becomes, who's motivating the independents? Will the independents be more turned off by Trump's corruption in office or by the Democrats' vindictive impeachment inquiry?
Kingston Country. You've been listening to the Dan Kingston Podcast.